Hey friends, I've agonized over making this video for some days. I'd hoped that my first video report from South Africa would be something different than this, but unfortunately the plans that we made didn't come to fruition. Oh, and go into too much detail, I want to keep this short. Just an update. I have to say, I've had some of the most amazing conversations on the street with people since I've been here. I mean, really, really good, short, sweet, powerful, whatever, just connecting to people in a way that I haven't done for some time, or perhaps folks in England are more immune to or more resistant to. But some great conversations, obviously not on camera yet at this point, but I see that as a real potential. We had a plan sort of that Andrea and I had become part of in the last 6 or 8 weeks, and we were keen, as you know, to get out of England. Well, we were keen to get ourselves on the land, and maybe we're somewhere where the weather was more amenable. And this lovely couple approached us, also with a small child, and suggested we join them on a trip to Mexico, share a house and so on. The plan sort of evolved into South Africa, and so we ended up coming to South Africa, but our relationship had been a long distance one. It was all online, and when we came together, we realized there were differences between us that were going to mean, the sort of energy wasn't a good match. And it was, it has been, shocking to kind of come to terms with it at this time. It's not like you can just say, oh, well, we'll jump back on the plane to England and maybe go and take a job somewhere. Going back to England from South Africa is at least 10 days in a hotel room that you may not leave for 10 days, and pests and all that sort of thing. That's where it is at the moment. Don't know where it heads to, but then there's the reality. The truth is that for me, to survive, and we've really been hanging on thanks to good fortune and some kind support from people like yourself, possibly. And so we don't have the prospects in the UK. So this idea of being somewhere where there was more land and the opportunity to exist with less interference from the state of affairs, highly appealing. And of course South Africa is my country I grew up in, so should feel like home. Unfortunately, it hasn't yet felt like home, and the welcome that I might have received from army veteran friends and perhaps school friends and others. It has been 27 years since I lived here permanently, but unfortunately that's been a little thin on the ground, with the exception of a friend by the name of Peter. More on him later. But we realized that we couldn't continue this union like an online date. When you meet, it's not all you thought it might be, and that the grown-up thing is to say, okay, well, let's carry on our individual journeys. Good luck. Hope it goes well. So at this point in time, this couple actually have been very generous. They've paid for our accommodation thus far, and they have offered 2 months of paid accommodation somewhere in the country or wherever we want to go. So we are at this point. Andrea's paperwork, would you believe, isn't in order. She had to travel out here on an emergency travel document, which we now can't travel back to the UK on anyway if we chose to do that. We need to go through a 6-week, maybe longer process of applying for an update on her passport. The same is true with my driver's license and passport as my passport here, but these are all system crap. That is, you know, just making this all a little bit more stressful. Poor Andrea has had, you know, a very difficult time. These last few weeks have felt like months. And Alexander is old enough now to be able to express his disconcert with the way that things have gone for him, and you know, mommy and daddy not being as present, you know, more stress, less fun, you know, and him being taken away from a lot of his normals. It has been just about the most devastating part of all of this for me, is that little Alexander is having to walk through a trial of fire himself at such a young age. You know, I say that though in the backdrop. I mean, you can see the gated compound that I'm in. This is how a large proportion of South Africans live now. Always behind. This is not a particularly big one. It doesn't have the electric wire like a lot of them do, and so on. But South Africa is a broken society. And truth is that people are hungry here for a different narrative, a different insight. And so the conversations I have had, particularly in the earlier part of arriving here, before the realization and started robbing, you know, the realization of our predicament started to rob me of my verve. The people that I've spoken to here have been, in the main, very, very receptive. And an example I'll cite is this 15-year veteran car park attendant in a place called Fishhook, right on the beach. He's been there 15 years, come rain or shine. And I was going to say his name is Richard, but it's slipping my mind. It might have been Richard. Anyway, I have a 10-minute conversation with this guy, and I bring him to the idea of, you know, the Christ within, that God is with us. In, you know, we are essentially, you know, a reflection of the Creator, and that all of this game has robbed us of this truth, and all the organs of state and religion have sought to deny our Christhood, almost like the Antichrist, actually. And so I have this conversation with this guy, and he comes back to me. I happen to walk past him again, you know, sometime later, 10, 20 minutes later, and he approaches me and says, you know what, you know, he's a 60-year-old guy or something like that. He said, in so many years, I have not heard anyone talk on these subjects that has made my heart open in the way that you made me feel today. My heart feels right now. I feel in my body. I feel my heart is open. I feel good. Well, yesterday I had a conversation with a young man who, you know, at the beginning of the conversation, he thought he was going to school me on some deep stuff, and I only spoke to him for 8 minutes, something like that, and his eyes were like this. He took my YouTube name, and hopefully he was already like a long way along the line. And once you take the mask off, and once you say to people, you know, this is a scam, well, we're being conned. Yes, most people here are most people here have been through the ringer. Governments, successive governments of different flavors, have just destroyed this place. And where I am now is a mid-level, suburban place. It's actually a holiday, mainly a holiday kind of beach type of place, and so a bit more affluent than say average. But on the lower end of the affluent scale, there are millions of people, of people that are living in abject poverty, and the cost of living is so high here. Things are more expensive here than they are in the UK, and people's salaries are a fraction of what even the average salary is in the UK. So there is a lot of hardship here, and there is a lot of appetite for something different. A black street hawker, you see quite a lot of this in South Africa. Guys will stand at the traffic lights and wait for the cars to stop, and then sell them cigarette lighters or like phone chargers and cheap sunglasses, things like that. And these people are treated pretty poorly on this. They're considered to be like pigeons in a way, and people are also frightened of them. So this guy approaches the window, I open the window, and he's like, we end up having a quick conversation because the lights took a long time at this particular stop, and he's like, yeah, you guys, you folks, you white folks are told to think that we're all like, going to harm you and so on. I'm like, I know that that's not true. I'm trying to treat everybody equally and fairly, and not be caught up with all of that. And I really think that it doesn't matter the demographic here. I really have a way of talking to folk here and getting them to hear that we are something else, and that this system is something else than it portrays. It is not what it seems. But people cannot see the wood for the trees. They are so confused. They've been ripped from pillar to post with apartheid and post-apartheid black economic empowerment, and a whole raft of things. And you do not squash millions of people into these despicable little townships and not expect for there to be bad elements coming from, wounded elements coming from that type of environment. So there's work to be done here, and I really feel good about that. But I am absolutely heartbroken by the occurrence of this last few weeks. It has been, for the other family, it's been a significant impact. But in my case, of course, I've pushed Zizi and Alexander from pillar to post. Sometimes I stop and try and think how many places we've been to in the last year and a half of homelessness, and actually I give up part way through because I can't remember, and there's so many. And so, we land here in South Africa with, unfortunately, very, very little, and a slightly broken spirit, or damaged, spirit, because it has been like, oh my gosh. But all the way through this journey, this last 4 or 5 years, I've surrendered so much of, everything that I had and thought was important, to just try and follow the heart and the mind, just like be open to be following whatever's coming, whatever I should be doing next, not trying to steer it too much. And so, when the South African thing came, the option came, or it started as Mexico, but when the option to jump and to find a homestead and raise the boys, and so on, wow, I felt like this is God sent, it's meant to be like this. It seems like, what other options are being presented to you, And then when it turns out that that's not quite how it's meant to be, then I'm like, okay, so I'm left on a bit of a limb here. So I'm going to have to go out and find a way, probably through activism, which I wanted to do, but I want to do. But of course, my first priority is Alexander and Andrea and their security, and well-being. So I still want to. I feel like I have a couple of months to find, find a groove, a way, because the truth is that I'm never, the banks are never going to lend me money to buy a house or a farm. I need to. My truck. I sold my truck to my mate Clint for a very good price. To be fair, very good price, because he was going to give me cash for it, and he knew there were things that needed repairing. Anyway, he has it a week or whatever, and bang, it gets clamped, because there's like £1,000 of unpaid bills and shit like that, because I hadn't registered it. I really didn't think that that would go on to him, which is really, he hadn't paid me all of the money that he'd agreed to for the car. So I've told him, sorry Clint, if you're watching this, I've told him to obviously keep the remainder of the outstanding balance, and I'll try and make good some of the rest of it. But I thought that would be all accrued to me, the guy who never registered the car. It wouldn't be like, how could it, how can you buy something today and be penalized for something that happened to it 2 weeks ago? Oh no, but apparently you buy. I didn't really thought about this too much, but when you buy the car, you buy all the baggage that it might be carrying behind it. The system is so self-interested. It's some of these things of trying to sort of stay away from the system end up causing you so much stress, and it costs you money unless you can do it right when it comes to fending this bull crap away. But yeah, in terms of moving forward, it's like, okay, so I need to try and make contact with some South Africans. A lovely lady by the name of Brenda kindly sent me some information. Michael Tellinger is doing this. Turns out he's doing this series of presentations starting yesterday, Saturday, that's the day before. So it's about this one small town initiative, Ubuntu. He's been banging this drum for years now, and I followed his work some time ago. I kind of lost a bit of interest in him. I like the stone stuff, but walking away from the truth about our geocentric, stationary, non-rotating environment, walking away from that was a sign of who he perhaps has to answer to. I don't know, but I listened to his presentation. I had to pay for it, by the way. It's 4 workshops, $75. So I want to thank whoever paid me PayPal last, because it was that money that I used. Thanks. So I listened to the first 2 hours, and I have to be honest, it was a little disappointing, man. If this is like the furthest that the South Africans have come in terms of liberation, freedom, a return to sovereignty, then it's not very far at all. It just feels like a version of futuristic city idea zeitgeist. It feels a bit like that, Everybody's got a stake in it, and so you won't drop gum because he's not actually dealing with you're still working in the paradigm of where houses cost. An average house will cost an average worker probably his whole lifetime of working simply to pay for it, if not more. Some houses, I think the prices of houses here are so vastly different to some salaries that there's some folks here who could never actually buy a house. Never. There are a guy said to me that you'll probably need about 20 to 30,000 rand a month to get by, which is about 1,000 to 1,500 pounds a month. So in English terms, that doesn't seem like a lot of money, but my friend Pete's foreman, a black guy, who he works with at the moment, he earns 9,000 rand a month. So, and that's a good salary, by the way, for a lot of African folk, and like the lady who came to do the cleaning at the one place we stayed in Cape Town. She's like, I only get 3 days of work a week now, and I don't know what she earns, but it's in the hundreds, a few £100 for the day. So if she's got 1,000 rand at the end of the week, 1,500 rand at the end of the week, she's done extremely well. This is 20 years after apartheid ended. See, the problem is that even Nelson Mandela was required to work within the banking system scam, and the government control system scam, and the religious scam. So this is the thing, is that none of these puppets ever come out and say, okay, the only way we're going to change this is if we divorce ourselves entirely from the system of usurpation of your power. We return to a way, and it takes time to obviously bring this about, but until you know it's possible, you don't begin the journey. We begin a process of returning people's land to them. That doesn't mean stealing some other dudes, like in this country, particularly white dudes are targeted like they did in Zimbabwe. White farmers are targeted to frighten and kill and whatever people off the land. Now, land has come to people through various means, but the frontline farmers are not the perpetrators of this crime against us all. So you've got to work slowly towards not taking other people's land, but giving people a stake or a piece, whether it be in the gold or land, but giving people while you continue to say, well, you're coming in with nothing, and in order to have anything, you're going to have to give up 40 years of your life and 20 more for education or indoctrination. You're going to have to give up all of this time in order to, and if you're good, you will get one at the end, and it'll be yours, and you can possibly pass it on to your family if we don't take it all off you in taxes. Or medical bills at the end of when your life has been broken, your body has been broken by age and stress, particularly, and dirty water, etc., etc. All of this needs to be reviewed, and the way in which people come to acquire land and so on should not be. And there's people with money, or other people who would say, no, you must fight for it. You must. That's the way it is. Well, you don't appreciate it if you haven't, spilled blood over the land, and you haven't had to beat 10 of your classmates to the best job. Otherwise, no, you shouldn't be entitled to such a piece of land that you could thrive upon. Yeah, it's a very, unfortunately, it's a very narrow-minded world in which we have been broken into, healed, trained, stabbed in the heel when you're 6 minutes old. So, anyway, I did run off on a little bit of a tangent there, guys. I am deflated, but as you can tell, I'm not broken. I'm not, I still hope to be a voice for change. So I see my little boy is just rising. I'm going to go and give him some love. Yeah, we've seen changes in him that have caused me to weep. Very, 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 very difficult path. Of course, my family are not really that interested, even though some of them are here. But I do what I do. Those who've been watching my channel for a few years now, you'll know that Alexander's well-being and my input into his life has been total and sincere. But he was part of this journey of discovery, you know, deciding to have another child was for me, or wanting to have another child was for me a conscious decision as part of this journey, and I trust that we can help him continue through that. The stronger we are, he wants me. The stronger we are, the stronger he'll be. The stronger humanity is, the better the future will be for them and all that come after them. I think we have a PayPal account still. Trinity's there. And if you know of anyone who has land in South Africa who wants to, you know, maybe share some of that land and stuff like that, speak soon.